Welcome everyone to Power Parsha Pearls, and this week the portion is Behaloscha. It's been really quiet. For the better part of 1.5 books of the Torah, we encounter no rebellion. The Jewish people are uncharacteristically calm. Let's do a brief recap. In the book of the Exodus, the Jews experienced the 10 plagues, splitting of the sea, freeing themselves from their Egyptian taskmasters. After crossing the sea, they experience a lack of food and water. They lose heart. Who can blame them? Wandering in a desert without basic necessities can trigger panic. God responds once again with manna and a rock from whence they drew the water. A little while later, they find themselves worshiping a golden calf, which take things to a whole new level. It's one thing to complain about your predicament. It's an altogether different matter to literally brazenly bite the divine hand that has effectively been feeding you. These people have been experiencing so much spiritual benevolence that this time the consequences are swift and severe. And that's pretty much the last time that we encounter any kind of revolt, any kind of issue, any kind of concern. Everything goes quiet after that. No less than 15 portions go by, not a single complaint, no revolts, no blames, no attacks, no criticisms. And then, boom, in this week's portion, it literally all kicks off again. They complain about the manna. It's monotonous, the same food every day. We want more. We want meat. Why did you take us out of Egypt? At least there we had variety, etc., etc., etc. And so it continues with another revolt in this week's portion. Next week, another revolt, and so on and so forth. This moment in this week's portion of this revolt, complaining about the manna, caused an existential crisis for Moshe. We've gone all this time, trekked all this distance, and you're still unhappy? You still have issues? You're still disgruntled, pining after Egypt? In fact, he expresses himself aloud, thinking and wondering and questioning, what's the whole point of everything that I've been doing? And to be honest with you, I think we can all identify with Moses, can we not? We can all appreciate his perplexity. How often is it the case that we might invest time and energy and emotion into someone, and sure, it's appreciated. But as soon as something doesn't go to plan, when they don't get what they want, they bemoan their so-called predicament. They start crying all about their fate. All of a sudden, nothing is good. Everything we did to date doesn't count, and that leaves us distressed, disconcerted, and disappointed. That therefore explains Moshe's behavior, Moshe's response, Moshe's reactions, if you will. But it does leave us wondering about the Jewish people themselves. The real question for consideration is the mindset of the people. What's their issue? If we were to really get to the core of their thinking process, what might we conclude is the basis for their problem? In other words, what was the psychological underpinning of their behavior? Breaking it down to about one word, how might we define what is really lacking in their lives? I suggest to you, faith. What is faith? How might you define it? For me, faith consists of believing when it is beyond the power of reason to believe. You don't know how it will happen. You just know that it will happen. Like the guy who's climbing Mount Everest and he's on a trek of self-discovery, and as he's nearing the summit, he loses his footing and he finds himself dangling for dear life from a mere branch, and he looks up to the heavens and he cries out, "Look, if there's a God up there, can you help me?" And to his astonishment, a voice booms back, "Do you believe?" And he replies, "I admit it, not until now, but I do now." "Then let go of the branch with your right hand." Because what, are you kidding me? If I let go of the branch with my right hand, I reduce my survival chances by 50%. "Do you believe?" "Yes, I do." "Then let go of the branch with your right hand." He proceeds to do so. "Okay, now what?" "Do you believe?" "Obviously, I let go of the branch." "Okay, now let go of the branch with your left hand." He says, "What? That's mad. Look, I believe in all, but surely, do you believe?" Yes, I do." "Then let go of the branch with your left hand." And the guy pauses and he thinks a moment, and then he looks up and he says, "Listen, is there anyone else up there that I can talk to?" The challenge in life is to let your faith be bigger than your fears. In fact, you might say faith is like Wi-Fi. It's invisible, but it has the power to connect you to what you need. The problem is that many people think that faith is silly. They think that their habitual and knee-jerk doubt and skepticism is more realistic. They don't realize that optimistic faith is often the only normal way for people to move forward and achieve great things. We don't live by the things that we doubt, but through the things that we believe. Christopher Columbus doubted many of the old assumptions about geography, but those doubts didn't make him great. His greatness came from the positive beliefs, which he confidently held on to, and upon which he launched his spectacular adventure. In the mid-1960s, Fred Smith was a business student at Yale University. He doubted that the delivery service in America would suffice in the coming computerized information age. So he wrote a whole economics term paper about his doubts and on the need for a new, reliable overnight delivery in a computerized age. And his professor read the paper, and his professor sympathized with his doubts, but the professor was less than impressed with Smith's idea for a business, and he responded, "Your concept is interesting and well-formed, but in order to earn better than a C, your idea must also be feasible." With a combination of innovative thinking, unconditional faith, and sheer determination, Smith went ahead and he started his unfeasible business. We know it. It's called FedEx. It's the world's first overnight delivery company, and it changed the transportation industry forever. Last I heard, it's a very feasible business with more than $100 billion in revenue in 2022. To be sure, doubt has real value in life. It clears away the rubbish. It stimulates the search for truth. But it has no value unless it is finally complemented and consumed by optimistic faith. Both the Yale professor and Smith himself had doubts about the old delivery service, but only Smith had faith. And it is ultimately that faith which enriches life. The land of Israel was the ultimate destination. Whenever the Jewish people demonstrated faith, they were able to march forth triumphantly towards that destiny. When they expressed doubt in itself, that wasn't terrible, because doubt in itself, again, is not a bad thing. It's the starting point to feed into the ensuing faith in order to cultivate growth. The problem is only if you get stuck there. If you're just wallowing in the doubt and the self-pity, then you'll never quite arrive. If Columbus was just left doubting geography, there may have never been a New York or a Nevada. And if Smith remained entrenched in his doubts about the delivery service in America, we might still be using delivery pigeons or banana boats. So here's the bottom line. Faith is not a pill you swallow. It's a muscle you flex. By definition, it's not something external to oneself, but innate at the core of every single one of us. And it offers hope, and it offers strength, and it offers resilience in the face of whatever the challenge is. It goes beyond mere intellectual assent. It encompasses a deep trust and unwavering conviction in the existence of God and his involvement in the world. Faith provides solace and comfort during difficult times. It assures individuals that they are not alone in their struggles, but rather have a higher power to turn to for guidance and support. Jewish texts like Psalms are replete with examples of finding solace through faith, reminding believers, no one less so than King David himself, that God is their refuge and their strength. So faith is not passive, but it calls for action. It motivates individuals to lead meaningful lives and engage in acts of loving kindness. Throughout Jewish history, faith has been a pillar of strength in the face of adversity, from the Exodus from Egypt to the challenges of pogroms, crusades, and even the Holocaust. Faith has enabled the Jewish people to persevere and maintain their identity. It's just that sometimes along the way, as per this week's portion, they falter, they lose sight, they lose perspective, they lose faith. More than anything, faith encourages individuals to trust in God's plan. Even when faced with uncertainty or hardships, believe that the manna is going to continue to fall. It reminds us everything happens for a reason. And whilst human understanding may be limited, God's wisdom is infinite. This trust in God's plan provides a sense of purpose and reassurance, helping individuals navigate through life's challenges. You know, there was once a farmer who owned a horse, and one day the horse ran away. And all the people of the town came out to console him. And he said, I don't know, maybe the fact that my horse ran away is a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing. And a little while later, the horse came back with a bunch of wild horses in tow. And all people came to congratulate him. He said, I don't know, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. And one day, the farmer's son went riding out on one of these wild horses and fell off and broke his leg. And all the people came along to console the farmer because of the accident. I don't know, maybe it's a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing. A few days later, the king had declared war and conscripted all the young able-bodied men into the war. They carted off hundreds of these men, except for the farmer's son, because he had a broken leg. And now I know, said the farmer, that when my horse ran away, it was a good thing. Life is a series of events. And until we've reached the end of this series, it's hard to know exactly why things are happening. Sometimes you'll see it here. Other times, and let's be frank and honest, most times you will not see it until the hereafter. The challenge is to have faith along the journey. Trust the process, even if you don't always get it, because ultimately you'll arrive at your destination. So when we look at the story of the Jewish struggle in their trek from Egypt to the land of Israel, it reminds us how Jewish history is replete with examples of the transformative power of faith, allowing the community to persevere in the face of adversity. And when we place trust in God's plan, then Jewish faith offers hope and meaning, enriching the lives of individuals and strengthening the community as a whole. So, bottom line, we need to have more faith in ourselves, more faith in the world around us, regardless of the obstacles in front of us, and more faith in the future, because that's the only real way that we'll all be able to each make it to our individual and collective promised land. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.